Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Let's Get Chatting podcast. Before we get into the seriously great conversation in this podcast we've got for you today, I'd like to just request a few things. If you could just go to our social medias and check it out, hit like, comment, subscribe on our latest videos, that would be great. So we are on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Anywhere you can find a podcast, we are there under Let's Get Chatting. If you do like the content, please give it a like. Give us a subscribe, hit the notification button so you can get all of our latest episodes, rate us on Spotify, iTunes, and those sort of bits and bobs, and just support us as much as you can. We appreciate you listening. Let's get into the episode. Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Let's Get Chatting podcast. Today you've got me, Josh. We've not got no Jamie today. He's otherwise occupied, as you says he's busy, but he's really not. He's just a liar. I don't know what he's doing, to be honest. He's probably playing golf. He's got this new addiction to golf at the minute, and it's like, ugh, boring. Golf is a boring sport.
I don't get golf.
Like, why would I walk around like hitting football or soccer to you? That's all for me. So So Justine. So we've got Justine with us today, guys. Firstly, where in the States are you?
I'm in New York City.
Oh wow, you got the New York twang now. Now I've heard it. I can tell.
I was waiting for that. I was like, oh, I'm here with a Brit. I'm gonna have accent issues.
Well, yeah, I'll try my best. My fiance's from America, so
okay, so you're used to it a little.
Yeah, she's from California, so I kind of get the slang a little bit. I'm actually moving over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Hopefully, like end of this year, beginning of next year, I should be in Tennessee, loving life.
Oh, interesting.
Can't wait just to be in the countryside, away from people. I'm not a city person. I don't like it.
I'm a city person sometimes. I'm in the city,
right?
But I feel like I want to be in the city sometimes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, most people they love London. Like anyone not English loves London. They're like, oh, I would love to go to London. Honestly, it's horrendous. It's a shithole. It's not the best place. So
New York City kind of has that, like, depending on where you are, but like it can be really, really crowded and it can be a lot. And depending on where you're at, it could be also a shithole. But
didn't they have like a crazy rat problem in New York at one point where like the population of rats?
There are places that are really like there are a lot of rats.
People have to like bang their cars before getting into them and stuff. Like, oh my lord,
not anymore. But yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I'd prefer the mafia or the rats, to be honest with you. Cool. So anyway, going into it. So tell us a little bit about yourself, because it'll probably make it easier for the listeners to hear you tell your story, and then we can go deeper into it.
Which part?
Start from the beginning.
I guess what I'll start with is that I very clearly have ADHD and no ability to stop doing things and stop assigning myself new stuff.
You are preaching to the choir right now.
I was watching some other episodes and I saw that. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. We understand each other. I just keep acquiring new titles and things that I do. So I'm an author. I started out quite a while ago, although really didn't get any books published until the COVID period in about 2020. But I had been working on it for a while. Started also working as a freelance editor. So those are like my two main things that I do. However, I've picked up quite a bit of advocacy work as well. So it started working with a group called Right Hive, which does basically works with marginalized communities and getting writing services out there, because we have a hard time as far as like how expensive everything is. Editing services can be a couple $1,000s, which for somebody who is not financially stable with their regular everyday things, writing becomes out of the question. And we wanted to make sure that people could tell the stories they wanted to tell, and there'd be more variance to the kinds of stories that got out there.
It's a bit like podcasting in that sense, isn't it? Like people just can get their ideas, their words out there. And even like running a podcast can be like, it's not cheap, it's really not cheap. And it's like everyone thinks you can just whip it up and you're like, whoa, calm down.
It's also a huge time component. Like I used to want to do that kind of work. And with Right Hive has a podcast, and
Okay.
we try to get together relatively often. It's usually the editor team and a couple of other people there, but it's hard to find the time for, especially if you have multiple people in the podcast, but just the editing time that goes into it is just, people have no idea. It's a lot.
I mean, personally for me, I always say with podcasts, like just raw dog it, man. That's what I said. Like I'm literally all about, like, my editing is quite minimal because I like to have like the realism behind the conversation, if that makes sense.
Yep, that real flow to it.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than an over edited podcast, honestly. Like I'm just like, ugh. So anyway,
out, like we're trying to sound eloquent talking about like about writing different elements of writing, and then sometimes we'll just start like making no sense after a while, when you start talking and you lose your train of thought halfway through, and it's just like stuff. So that's usually where we'll cut things, but
right, yeah.
And it's a good group. Like we have a good camaraderie, so it's a lot of fun to record when we do, but it does take a lot of time to actually get like all these busy people in one place at one time.
Sure.
So recently, I was doing that, and then recently I acquired a new title, which was basically the story behind that one was that I have a day job as well. So I had lost my day job. I had been laid off. And I didn't have, I wasn't, apparently writing, editing, and doing Right Hive wasn't enough. I was going kind of stir crazy, and that's not involving like the fact that I have a teenager yeah, I just have a lot of stuff. But yeah, I was getting a little stir crazy during the day, not having anything to do. And a friend of mine saw that and was like, we could use a little help. We're starting up this organization. It's this initiative. It's against domestic violence. It's called I Know Why She Stayed. And I like jumped in with both feet, and I was like, yeah, I'll help out until I get a new job. And that became like just such a huge part of my day. And I have another job now. And it's just like, no, this wasn't the kind of thing that I could put in a little bit of time. It became something that just was so important. And so I spent my time that way. Those are my major things. They're parent and, family person, writer, editor.
Yeah.
Right Hive, and now I Know Why She Stayed.
Honestly, I feel you with doing so many things. Like I'm similar. So like my days, I'm like trying to. So like, I usually start work at like 5 to 6 a.m. So I try to get the gym in before then, and then I'll go to work. I finish work, and I've got a 2-year-old. So my 2-year-old is like, they're crazy. And as you can hear, I got a psychotic dog. So, she's also nuts. And being a Brit, I also have an American partner, which being a Brit with an American is very different to being with a Brit, because especially someone from California, because they're very 10x on everything. So, if let's say we're having a barbecue, it can't just be a barbecue. It's a party, giant, everything's over exaggerated.
Interesting.
So I'm contending with that. I also stream video games, and I have a podcast, and like it's crazy. So I get it. When it comes down to like having a lot. Like I understand that.
But I think it keeps us. I feel like it keeps you interesting. It keeps life like it keeps you on your toes. Like
I've always said I live on momentum.
Mm-hmm.
I live off momentum. I have to keep going. So I don't have a choice to stop, because if I stop, I suppose I just get bored, and then I'll start something else.
Yep.
That's my problem.
100% it. I always say like I don't rest. I don't like to rest.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, I mean, like if I really need it, I'll take a day, but for the most part, I'm just like, okay, well, what do we do now?
Yeah,
Like, oh,
I
let's
mean, I know when it's too much because I'll like lay down at 4 p.m. and wake up at like 8 and like, oh shit, the day's gone.
Yep. It's like,
You know?
yeah, I was talking to, like, I actually asked my boss for my day job. I was like, I need a week. I was like, can I just take a week? And he's like, my job is kind of, there isn't anyone else that does my job but me, so I can kind of plug in and plug out
Yeah.
as needed. And so usually you would need a lot of notice, but I was just like, next week, can I just not? And he was like, okay, are you all right? I was like, well, I'm just burnt. I'm not burnt out until I am. So
Yeah, it's like a
I
wall,
know
isn't it?
before, and I've hit that point. I see it coming. I'm like, okay, yeah, I need a break. So next week I'm on vacation. So that's
Oh,
nice.
win-win. Cool.
Yeah,
So let's talk about the author side of you. I'm going to call it side of you, you know?
yeah. My person, I call it my secret identity. Like
Okay.
I'm a big geek. So when I started my job and someone found out that I wrote books, and I was like, oh no, you've discovered my secret identity. So I
Yeah.
just don't talk about it at work. But
It's your
yeah,
Batman to your Bruce Wayne, right?
exactly. Perfectly
um,
suited. My favorite superhero.
oh, there you go. Perfect. So where did the writing start all come from? How does one become a writer? Well, I know how one becomes a writer. You've got a page and you can write things down and hope it goes for the best. But where does
Yeah,
what enticed you to writing, and
I
when
think
did you sort of go from
yeah,
there?
I feel like I always like to tell stories. I was like I'm kind of like the type of person who just likes to entertain, and I've always been like that. Like,
Yeah.
just very much like I used to actually want to act.
Oh, okay.
So when I was when I was little growing up, I wanted to act, and then that didn't end up being a realistic goal.
Sure.
And I had actually tried for a while. Like after high school, I tried to like audition for things, and
Yeah.
but I realized that I don't think I really wanted to work with other people's stories. I think I wanted to work with my own. I like to
Yep.
come up with things. And my husband, who was just my future husband at the time, um was like to write as well. And so he always encouraged me. He's like, you should put this stuff down on paper, like you've got like this crazy imagination. And I was like, nah, maybe one
Yeah.
day. And working one of my side jobs that I was doing at the time while I was like auditioning and all of this, I was at work, and it was a really boring day. No one was coming in, and I worked by myself. So it was
Right.
really going stir crazy sitting there on my own.
Yeah.
I was just like, you know what? Let me try it. Took out a notebook and just, let it started like let it rip.
Yep.
Um, and I thought I started building something interesting, and after that, I just every day I started doing it, and I would just add more to this little world that I was creating. It took years for me to really like think of it as a profession,
Yeah,
um,
sure.
but I had a lot of fun, like just kind of putting stories together.
Do you
And that
find when
sorry, go ahead.
you write, do you find that like you just get lost in the page and you've written X amount before and you don't even realize that you've written it?
Sometimes, yes, and
I feel
that's
like
I call those the magic moments,
oh,
where
that
like
must be me every time I write, honestly. Like
that's
every
good.
exam in school, everything I ever did, I can just remember going, writing like the first two sentences, and like people can't read my writing. It is unreadable, like genuinely. But I remember I'm looking down and there's like a whole page there, and I'm like, I don't even know what the hell I've just written. Like genuinely no idea, but I'm gonna go with it anyway.
Well, the muse hits when they hit, right? Like I feel like for me, I know like when it comes to being a profession, like you have to make yourself do it sometimes. Like it's not
Sure.
always so it's like, we call it like button seat. You have to put your butt in the seat. You have to go for it. Some days you don't want to, but like your book's not gonna get done if you don't
Well, yeah,
do
of
it.
course,
You
yeah.
want to, right? So yeah, it's that discipline to it. But like the magic moments are the times when you sit down. Sometimes it's like you forced yourself to sit down, and then something hits. You get to a part of the story where you know where you're going, and you just can write for like hours straight.
There's like a flow.
Uh-huh. It just works sometimes. Like there will
Okay.
be days where you're like stretching out, like, okay, I got a sentence. And that's happened to me more than once, where I'm sitting there like, this is taking me 2 hours on a paragraph. This is the worst.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, 'cause it's just like things aren't clicking, and like I'll say something and I'll be, no, that sounds terrible, and I'll like go back, and it's funny because like as someone who teaches other writers, as an editor who's like, explaining this stuff, it's like I tell them all the time, don't self-edit in the middle. Like it doesn't help anything. Just get it on the page. I don't do that. I beat myself up, and I tell them that too. I'm like, no, I'm telling you this because I know how easy it is to lose hours of time just going, oh yeah, this isn't good. No, never mind, and like deleting whole paragraphs. Like if you question it too much. So there will be days that disappear on like one page.
You can
You're
try
just
and be like have too much perfection, right?
right. Yeah. Like at some point, I feel like you have to just keep going. And that's what edits are for. That's what you go back and you clean it up and you fix it. Because if you don't get it on the page, but like the writer brain doesn't want to hear that all the time.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we know it, but we don't like you just sit down and you'll just be like, no, that sucks. I can't write another line until I fix this. Like
Right.
this metaphor sucks. What is the right metaphor? Or you do the dreaded thing, which I still think I need to get something to like block out the rest of my apps while I'm writing. Because the other
Doom
thing I'll do
scrolling.
is it's either doom scrolling or that thing where you go, huh, is that right? Is that the right kind of flower that grows in this
Oh, really? Then you get
that
into these rabbit holes.
research rabbit hole, and all of a sudden it's like 2 hours later you've lost all your writing time and now you know the name of the flower, and it's like, okay, well that wasted way too much time.
Yeah.
I could have probably done that on the train on the way to work tomorrow,
I
but
think this is something
instead,
that people who read books, they don't take that into like consideration. It's like I'll be honest, like I'm actually probably terrible even to talk to about reading books. I think I've read one book in my whole life.
do
One.
you do audiobooks?
Well, when I say read, I mean listened.
Okay, so it's like my son's the same way. He does not like to read, and it's hilarious because both of his parents are authors. My son
Mm,
does like if it's something that interests him already, like he'll read history and stuff like that because he's a history buff, and
yeah.
he's 15. But it's like putting a book in front of him and just going like sit there and read the pages is like torture.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
mean,
something
I'm
he
the
really feels
same.
like.
The book I listened to was a Star Wars book, Darth Plagueis. Like obsessed with that. Like I listened to that, and after that, I actually felt like when I was listening to it, I was in the world of like I was in the Star Wars universe. But I think that's the only thing if I hadn't listened to it, that would have captured me on paper. I wish I could go back and try it the other way and just read it as opposed to listen to it. But now I've
Maybe
listened to it, I'm like,
maybe there's
ugh.
other Star Wars books that'll get you, right?
There
Like
probably is. There probably is. My problem. I think the problem is still there that we were discussing earlier. I just don't have the time. Not
yep.
even for 10 minutes.
I literally had to. So like when you're writing, a lot of learning how to write or staying in that writing bug is to read other people's work.
Mm.
And when it comes to, especially like if you're trying out new genres or you're changing like anything about the way you write, we tend to research based on, let me find like a few books that use this, like maybe like a different POV style, like maybe you're going first person to third person, and it's like, okay, well, what are some good writers that do that? And then you'll like read to kind of give yourself some of an idea of like, okay, how this
Yeah,
is being
sure.
used, right? Or like just to sort of remind yourself of the flow that comes with it. Because if you haven't read any books like that for a while, you might be out of practice. So we'll pick up books. I edit, so I'm always reading a book anyway.
Yeah.
And then I have to read another book. And so it's like I have a tendency to like literally schedule in time every day where I have to like
Oh
finish a chapter
wow.
of the book
Wow.
just so that I keep that freshness going.
With regards to like writing, I feel like for me, obviously I've never written anything, but I feel like the biggest problem I'd have, you're just touching on like first and third person. I don't think I could differentiate the two when I'm writing things down. Is that like is that something that people struggle with, or is that just me?
Yeah, no, it's not just you. It's like, so like, because I, like I said, I work with a lot of writers and like a lot of beginning writers, especially when I'm working with Write Hive, there's usually people who come in who haven't had editors before because they haven't been able to afford things like that. And it's, you're working with people who are like fresh off. And when you're first learning, you don't a lot of that you skip between these things. We have this thing we
Yeah.
call it head hopping. You'll be like in one person's head and then you'll be in like 3 other people's heads, and it's like, okay, wait, what's happening here? But like, it's something, again, it's such it is really a skill you hone with time. You
Sure.
have to like really learn, like, you teach yourself these things, and then you figure out like the tricks to stay in those points
Yeah.
of views. And one of the things that I always tell people is you're doing first person, you're in the eyes of the person. So you don't see anything that they don't see. You don't,
Cool. That sounds
hear
hard.
anything here. It's hard. It's hard, especially but I think it makes it like, it tends to end up making it a better story when there are parts of, like, say, a mystery or something that you're,
Yeah.
and you can't show those things because those things are not seen by your main character. And you have to find some other way to hint at what's happening. It's a challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, it usually ends up making for a better story if you're not just told those things, like they don't happen right in front of the person. But it is hard to do, and it's one of the things that I think, like, with time, you kind of like, you the more you write, the better you get, is really
It's
what.
like you're writing a broken jigsaw puzzle into being finished.
Yep.
You know, that's what it
I
sounds like.
I tell this story because this it ends up sounding really terrible when you think about it. So I had this book the first book I ever wrote is the first book I published, but
Oh
like
wow.
500 versions later. Like, I was really, really dead set on telling this story.
Go
It's
for it.
called Daughter of the Key. It's actually a trilogy that I have published, and it was the first thing I wrote that day in in my job when I was bored. I started telling this story very differently than I ended up telling it.
Yeah.
But I was just really, really dead set on getting this out. It was like this idea I had in my head. I created this whole world and I wanted to share it. And it took me, I think, a decade to get the first book.
Jeez.
I would put it down for a long time. I had I had a kid, I had life got in the way. I didn't do it. I like got back to it again. I tried again, and each time I got a little bit better. But then I started, I when I had my son, um, I had like kind of a horror story level birth with
My
him.
fiance did. Trust me, I feel you on that.
It was really rough. There was a C-section. It wasn't supposed to be a C-section. There was supposed to be an epidural. There couldn't be an epidural. It was a whole thing. And it was like, and he had colic, and I had postpartum depression, and it was just pretty much
Shit.
rolling
Yeah.
a ball of crazy shit that you have to get through to do this. When I came out of the other side, I looked at my life and I was like, what do you want to do? Like, you've
Sure.
done this. You've done this.
Yeah.
This was like the hardest year of your life. You can do whatever you need to do. And after that, everything shifted. Like, I
Yeah.
felt like, okay, there's the power. There's the thing that I didn't know I had. But I got through this, and my son's okay and he's happy now, and I'm okay and I'm happy now, and we can move forward. And and that's not even mentioning my poor partner who got like totally thrown to the side of that story. He was super supportive, and just 100% has my back, which is the only way I get any of the things I get done. But he
Trust me, we know what women go through. Like I like, even just talking about like birth and being a first time parent and everything, like there is so much that goes into it that people will never know until it happens, and it's not easy. Even if you don't have any of the struggles, even if you have a perfect birth and a perfect baby and everything's perfect, it is still fucking hard.
I was telling my friend has actually, my friend who I work with on the podcast, she just had a baby. A big
Oh,
part of
okay.
why our podcast is kind of on hiatus. She was having a hard time, and I told her, I was like, it's all lies. All the happy stuff they tell you at the beginning. Sounds terrible to say that, but it's all lies. It's super freaking hard. You're struggling the whole time. You find your way through it. It works out, but those, like, and there are happy times. It's not like it's all hell, but it's really hard. You don't sleep. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, you're driving a car blind,
yes,
like
exactly. And
genuinely.
prepares you. And
Nope.
there's no real way to prepare you. Even unless you're there, you've done it before, there's really no way to prepare you because it's then your responsibility.
And also, baby classes suck.
Oh yeah,
Like
100%.
they are like, obviously my son's 2 years old, and we took like a few baby classes, and they were like telling us all this shit. Like, I mean, when you change his nappy diaper, you
Mhm.
have to ask for permission, and I'm like, what was he gonna say? Yeah, like he's a baby. Like, what am I saying? Can I please change your like bum? And what's he gonna be like? Yes, dad. No.
What if he says no?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like, what do I do? I'll leave him covered in his own feces? Like, what is going on here? So I swiftly was like, nope, not happening again. Goodbye, and just
yeah, that's so silly.
yeah.
That's wild. I mean, I think I get the concept is like a consent idea that like when he's older, like discussing that with him. But I think at that age, like they don't know what they need. Like you
Dude,
have
if I'm on 1 hour's sleep, that kid does the toilet, and I'm not going through any of that. I'm going right. Come here, let's get this done. Back to bed.
all I can think about is the first time I had to change my son, which was when I was like completely highly medicated in the hospital after having
Yeah.
a C-section and trying to like and I was like they didn't let my husband stay overnight, which was wild. So it was just me and this baby. And American medical system. But anyway, um, yeah, they didn't let my husband stay with me. So it's me post C-section medicated with this baby trying to change him. And I
Jeez.
can't even imagine thinking, hey, is this okay with you?
It's like the first time I changed my son, he literally wazzled in the air. Wee
I
was
was gonna
going
say
everywhere, and I'm
it
like,
was I've changed poo and then pee was coming and I was like I literally I was in the hospital going, "Oh no. Oh no. Oh no." The whole thing. Like, I had no idea. So yeah, I didn't know what I was doing and I can't even imagine like it's so much work just
yeah,
every day and like you get used to it but then it's something new because kids change all the time,
all the
right? Like
time. Oh hell yeah.
especially that young. Then
Mm-hmm.
it's
Oh yes,
like
they do.
he decides he wants to kick, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah, go through that. Well, I'm going through the bonk stage at the minute. Everything is I'm going to get it and hit you with it and say bonk. So
yep,
yeah, remote
yep,
to the head a few times today. It's fun though. Like I love it. It's super fun, man. There's nothing. It's the best thing in the world. Like it
it
is,
is.
but it's
And like you
goddamn
complain about
hard.
it. But it's like I always say, like, no, but my son is the best thing that ever happened
Yeah,
to me.
yeah.
100% would not trade it. But yeah, have there been times that have been like, okay.
I need 5 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Which is also okay, like for parents as well. Like if anybody is listening and they're like becoming a parent or they are a new parent and they have a newborn, like it's okay to need 5 minutes. Like go take it. Babies can cry for 5 minutes. It's fine. Like that's what I always say. Like if he's crying, I'll be like, right, cool. If he's safe, nothing could happen to him. You
Exactly.
know?
My husband used to laugh at me because I was so paranoid when he was little. When he would be in the pack and play, and he would just be like awake but not doing anything. I wouldn't
Yeah.
sleep. I would just be he's awake. What if he needs something? And my husband like wakes up and he's like, "You're starting to look crazy. Like the lack of sleep is getting to you because I'm perched on the edge of the bed just watching him." Like,
Yeah, we were the same. Honestly, we were the same. But I think we're at the point now where, like, now he's nearly 2. Where, like, if he wakes up and he's not crying, I'm staying asleep now. I'll wake up and be like, oh, he's awake. Yep, goodbye. Like,
yep,
you know, do your thing.
yep. You get to that point after a while where it's like, no, that like I literally can't anymore.
Yeah,
The engine has run out. It's no longer working. Like and the thing is like now we have so now we have a whole different thing, right? Because we have a teenager, so he's like up and about and just doing his own thing most of the time, and so we don't actually have to steer him most of the time, which is
yeah,
new. It's a different kind of worry,
yeah.
but
I can imagine. It's more of like a back of your mind worry than a front of your mind worry,
yeah,
right?
it's not like what is he going to get into. It's oh man, he managed to get through all the snacks and he's going to eat us out of house and home kind of. Because the energy is endless, right? And they just need to
Yeah,
fuel all the time. So it's like it's things like that more than it's like, and it's like, oh, he's really sad because he really wanted to save up for that game and he hasn't had enough yet. And it's like, Uh, all the video games, all the time.
I'm still like that. I can't even judge. I can't even judge.
Like right now, he just got the new Doom game, and he's been
Yeah.
going nuts. So
Brilliant. Wow, that's what the teenage boys, man. Teenage boys. So back to the book. So so you went through this whole pregnancy, becoming a mum again, like going through all of that, and you were still writing this book, right?
and I said to myself, like, I'm gonna do it for real this time. Like, this is
Yeah.
it. So and it still took me forever, right? Like, but I started to really call myself a writer. Like, before I was just dabbling,
Yeah.
and started like reading books and taking classes and really like trying to learn the craft of it, and the ins and outs. And that was when things started pulling together for me.
Sure.
So that was, I think, like, once you learn these things, it's hard still to put them into effect in your story, especially when you've already got something written in front of you, and then you're like, no, this is what I want to keep. Like, it's really hard to look at your stuff objectively when it's already like taken you hours to like put together.
Yeah.
But slowly, and with help from other people, like, I would send it to other writers I knew, and I'd be like, please just give me like real opinions. Made some super close friendships off of that, where we would just trade each other's work and
Yeah.
just
Awesome.
rip it up to pieces and then give it back to, no, this is terrible, or this line, no, I mean, nicely, but also like,
Constructive criticism.
yes, constructive criticism, but like really just go in and like, no, this word doesn't work here, this line, this character. um and then like at one point, like, I had a friend who was an editor who was like, I'll give you I'll edit this for you.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which, her name's Jenny, she's amazing. And she was like, I will edit this story for you because I had the potential for a book deal, but they told me cut 20,000 words, which is the wildest thing. Books are
Wow.
usually Books will range between like 70 to 120 if they're like, and maybe even up to 150 if they're like heavy sci-fi, heavy fantasy.
Yeah.
And I had like 100,000 books, but I write for teenagers, so or
Right. Okay.
so they're usually a little shorter than that. And I had this 100K book, and they were like, no, well, we're interested, but it has to be shorter. And I didn't know what to do, and I had like a month to make a decision. um
Jeez.
and I mentioned it to my friend, and she was like, I got you. And she read it,
Oh
and I
wow.
ended up having to cut like 3 characters out of it. And and I joke about it because I've rewritten this book so many times that before I wrote the sequel, I really had to actually sit down and reread my own book because I couldn't remember
Which
what
parts?
reason
Yeah.
had made it through. I was like, what got through and got published? I don't even know anymore. Because I rewrote it just so many times. But then the next book I wrote in 6 months. So it's
Oh
like,
wow. That's a quick
yeah,
turnover, right?
I had to learn it. I had to learn it. And I mean, it's not always that easy. When I tried to write the 3rd book of the series, so I also have a standalone book that I wrote. That's the one I wrote in 6 months, right out of the gate. I needed
Okay.
a palate cleanser. The books I write are very like, they're urban fantasy. They're in like a modern world, but they're, fantasy underlying in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
There's magic systems and stuff like that, and a lot of action. And I was like,
Sounds a bit like um I watched this TV show, Immortal what is it?
the Mortal Instruments, or
Yes. Yes.
that's, yeah, it's similar. It's actually been, I've had a couple of people compare it. It's like, I call it that plus Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because I was a huge Buffy fan when I was
Awesome.
a teenager. And
Awesome.
yeah, so I have a lot of fun with it. They're like, they're funny, but it's also really some really heavy stuff that they're going through as well. And it's a lot of fun to write the characters. I've sort of closed out that series. I'm working on, I had a couple of short stories that I had written. I do something I like to call experimental, like, journey writing, I guess, where
Okay.
I throw in like, I'll take a writing prompt that I've collected randomly from different places, and I'll just pick a character out of and it's my way of like getting to know that character, and I'll write a short
Yeah.
story about them to sort of get an idea of, like, even though they're like a side character in the main story or something, it's kind of get an idea of like their motivations, why they're doing things. And I'm putting that together for a short story collection. The good ones, the ones that actually had like real stories out of them and weren't just like I wrote like a couple of paragraphs and was like, okay, yeah, I understand this one now. Okay. It's not everybody needs a full story, but I had written like the secondary lead in the story who ends up getting in book 2 and book 3 gets whole point of view chapters and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
But initially was just sort of like a secondary character. I grew his story through this kind of writing. So I have a ton of short stories that follow him.
Okay.
And I'm putting them together and I'm going to do a short story collection and release it. And that should be the end of this like world that I've been working on, which is so weird because it's like a
It's
whole
consumed you.
chapter of my life. It's just closing it off. But in the middle, I stopped and I wrote this like really silly romantic comedy about Aphrodite telling a girl who swears off love that no, she's going
And
to.
that's never say never, right?
That's never say never.
Okay.
And that one was just like literally like I need to not write an action scene for a while because I've written like a whole book of action scenes and I don't have any ideas anymore. And I need something really like mellow and, I mean, there's stuff that happens in it, but it's not like high stakes, like end of the world kind of things.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what I needed. I needed like a space in between that. And I'm at that point again. I was like, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to write something that's just not like a life or death. Everyone is like, martial arts fighting. I've at this point I've taught classes on fight scenes. I've done
Oh,
like
wow.
because it's just I write them all the time. So I'm like, I'm running out of inspiration for people beating each other up. I need.
With regards to like learning fight scenes and stuff, have you ever done like any like personal training yourself to like get in the headspace of it?
I'm actually disabled, so it's like I mean that came later on in the writing journey, so I haven't
Okay.
been able to like physically do the things that I envision, even though like I have a pain disorder. So it's like if I could try it and probably do it and then I would like fall over the next day. Um let's not. But my son actually was learning martial arts, so I spent a lot of time in
Ah,
taekwondo
awesome.
classes, like in the background
Just
watching
get
and watching
making
like
notes.
I mean, and he also did some like he didn't get very far in this class, but he did some sword work and like and I was not even just watching him necessarily, but like there would be ceremonies and you'd watch all the other people go and like watching the really high level black belt fighters was
Yeah.
really interesting to see how they move and how much thought goes into what they're going to do next.
I
Um
suppose as a writer as well, like everything that you see, you sort of have to like take in because you're like, I could use this one day, like this could, I'm learning this, like, because if you're going to write scenes, you might be like, even something as simple as like, I don't know, going in an elevator and pressing a button and going up, you're like, what are the details of this? Like all the extra bits.
There are like mental snapshots you try to take, especially when they're really different or interesting moments, things that you're doing that like maybe they're like once in a lifetime kind of things. Um,
Yeah.
you have those moments where you're like, I have to kind of take all of this in, maybe take some notes and really think about it because one day this might end up in a book. I have a T-shirt that I like to wear as a joke whenever I go to writing conventions or things like that, and it says like, "Do not annoy the writer; she might put you in a book and kill you."
Yeah.
Um,
Brilliant. And then you moved on to, so everything you've written up to, is it the I Know Why She Stayed, the reader's guide?
right.
Everything up to that is that everything's been fiction up until
Everything's
that,
been
right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
perfect.
mean, I've written a couple of essays that have been published in places, but never a book length story
Okay.
and I've thought about it. I've thought about doing memoir. I've had kind of a wacky life and with some interesting life experiences. So maybe one day. But when I met the girls at I Know Why She Stayed, they were working on a memoir and they've both been financially abused and
Okay.
they were each telling their story. They met separately. We there was a podcast actually
Oh,
that
really?
oddly all three of us have been on, but they were on together. And it was called Word Crash, and it was like a game show kind of thing. And Kat and Casey, who are like the leads at the like the co-founders of I Know Why She Stayed, they met there, both writers, and they were they made friends, and they kept talking afterwards, and they ended up realizing this common thread in their lives and started writing these two separate memoirs that they plan to put together for this book and to tell this story. And I have known Kat for ages. She's actually the designer of like the website my website, and
Okay.
does all like my author stuff that I give away, like postcards with my book stuff information on it and all of that. She does all of my design work. So we've had a business relationship for years, but we've also been friends for a really long time. And
who says don't mix business with pleasure, hey?
oh, that doesn't work in the writing world. Like we're all like, it's, I mean, as long as you're professional about it, like we're
Yeah,
really good.
yeah.
Yeah, but pay this invoice and make sure you sign off on this contract, because we want to make sure that we don't ruin those things.
Sure.
So yeah, she's like, there's a work order from her when it comes to design stuff, and like, and it's the same for me with editing, because it just works easier that way if we're just like
Sure.
as professional with each other as we are with everyone else. But there are so many of us that like help each other out with these things, or like sometimes there's trading services, like I can edit a book and you can help me with something design wise, and it's like the barter system for
Yeah.
creatives.
I
But
think that's in a
yes,
lot of workplaces, right? I do it all the time.
yeah, it's so helpful too, because it's like, okay, yeah, there's money, but there's also like, if you've got something if I've got something you need that can help you, like why not, right? And we
Yeah,
can work
exactly
together.
that.
But yeah, so we like, I was working on I edited their memoir, and when it came out, we were talking about like how else we can help people who have been in these situations. And one of the discussions was about how there are never really there isn't a lot of, or there's starting to be more, I guess, discussion behind things like coercive control, or the really insidious ways that abusers operate. um
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast the other day from a gentleman in England. His name's Liam Tufts. He had some crazy guests on, but this one was like super important. And I listened to it, and it was this lady who she'd been in a relationship with this man, and he's been arrested and he's in prison for coercive control, but he was also physically abusive. Um, and I think it's with coercive control, it's so hard to spot unless you're involved. Whereas with like physical abuse, if I'm walking down the street, I see a lady with a black eye, I could stop and say, "Oh, are you okay? What happened?" You know. But with like coercive control, I suppose it's only the people involved who will know unless the women say anything, right?
And a lot of times the women don't even realize it until they're out of the relationship, which
Yeah,
was a
of
big part
course.
of, particularly with Casey and Kat's story. They realized after the fact, or they wouldn't
Wow.
even title it. Like for Casey, she said for years she wouldn't call it that. She would call it, she would say they had a dysfunctional relationship. Like
Sure.
she knew that there was stuff that was wrong, but the idea that it was considered abusive just never entered her mind. And then she would look back at all the things. And even as she was writing her memoir, she would write the things. And then I would say, do you like, we would talk and we would be like, oh, this stuff was going on before she even realized
Yeah.
something was wrong. There were weird little controlling grasps that her husband would make that were like things like on her finances, or like on things that she was allowed to change in the house that they had
Right.
together, and that she didn't even like connect as being like really like negative, and maybe if they were by themselves wouldn't be, so you wouldn't make that connection. But when you look at the pattern as a whole, you stand back and you see like it was like he would inch in like further and further along in
Yeah. Yeah.
really controlling pattern that eventually became him keeping money from her, or like taking, making her give receipts for groceries to make sure she gave all the
Fucking
change
nuts.
back.
It's
Yeah, it was
nuts. Like,
crazy shit. And that's the thing, like when we were talking about it, we realized how many people just don't have a like framework for what they're going through at that time, which is where the reader's guide came from. we started talking about like how can we show people exactly where those moments are, and we took the memoir and we just broke it down into a bunch of pieces and started using examples and saying this right here, this is a control, this is coercive control,
Right.
this
Yeah.
this is what he's doing here, or this is intimidation, and that's not okay, and this is, you know, family pressure for, you know, from external family pressure. Because the other thing is, a lot of times when you're abused, if your family doesn't see it, and if the abuser makes a really good case for like why he's the best person ever, your family will end up accidentally helping him.
It's because they're usually narcissists, right? Like,
Exactly.
then, like, to be like being frank, like I'm very open on here, and I say exactly what I want when I want and how it is.
Love that.
Someone who's an abuser is a fucking asshole. And if anybody's ever listened to this and they've done that, you're an asshole, and you should probably just not listen to this because you're gonna get your feelings hurt. But the thing is, with I think with abuse, anything that isn't physical abuse is a show of the times, really, how far like we've come to see this and notice this in culture. Like, you know, if you go back, say, 10 years, the only abuse people knew was physical abuse.
Exactly.
And nowadays, I mean, there as we now know, there's so many different types. You've got your coercive, you've got your financial, you've got even things like, for me, the worst thing for me is when I see or hear people who have like told their partner what to wear, and it's like, oh, you can't wear that. Everybody should be free to express themselves how they want. That being said, I think there is certain aspects now where people are using it in the other direction, such as, so like for an example, if boy girl together break up, girl cries wolf about something that didn't happen, and so on, that's also taken serious enough where it could damage a man and his reputation as well.
I do see that. I think that happens a lot less than, based on like recorded percentages.
Mm-hmm.
There's under 5% chance of that happening based on what we know.
Oh,
Now,
perfect.
yeah. So like when you're going through the, like, really, because obviously we've been doing studies here on this and like doing a lot of research, but like really 5% of all rape accusations or abuse accusations are actually proven to be false. Now, that's proven, but then when you're taking the percentages, that's also reported. So
Right, that's the
how
problem,
many
isn't it?
abuse cases are not reported or rape cases are not reported, it
Sure.
that adds a whole other dimension to that. So yeah, there could be cases that, in that 5%, that could be higher because we don't know how many have not been reported that are, or that are like not never proven to be
And
false.
just,
But then in the other
oh,
direction, that expands as well.
are we talking about reported or convicted?
That's another thing. So
Right.
that's a whole separate percentage. So there's reported, which, yeah, okay, there can be, there's so many reported incidents that never reach court.
And that's
Um,
also a problem.
exactly.
Like,
That's
what
a
the fuck?
whole separate issue. Is we have, and then we have the issues where things do get reported and do get convicted, and then there are children involved.
Sure.
And that is a whole other mess where you have what's called post separation abuse, where you have the abuser is gone. Technically, they're not technically in the relationship anymore, but they have this child that's connecting them,
Yeah,
and
that's
they can
crazy.
now use the kid to,
Yeah,
and this can go, again, this can go in either direction. I never assume that it's like a woman that's always being
sure, sure.
abused. It does happen. It tends to happen more, but
Predominantly, yeah, no,
it
of
does.
course.
But that doesn't mean that it's only. But yeah, a lot of times there will be people in those situations who are just using this kid to make their ex's life miserable.
And do
Or
you know what else is absolutely balmy and fucking crazy to me is that people who get, I always hate saying this word, raped. Women who
Mhm.
get sexually assaulted, right? Let's go with that. Women who get sexually assaulted and fall pregnant, and if they decide they want to keep the baby, it's like that man has rights to that child. What
Exactly.
the fuck?
Exactly. And that's insane, right? Like
That's
it
crazy.
was a violent act that created it. And yet the fact that they can then call on like the courts and get rights to this child. And then again, also that's victimizing the parent, the mother all over again.
Yeah.
And then also what God knows what kind of influence they're going to have
Well,
on that child
exactly.
as well.
It's like if I stole somebody's car, right? I know this sounds crazy. I'm not comparing the two at all, but bear with
I
me.
get it. It's,
Train of thought.
we're talking, put a crime in,
Yeah.
right? And
If
I
I
know exactly where you're going.
if I stole someone's car and they had 2 car keys and I took one of the car keys, I do not own that car.
Exactly.
Like, legally, I do not own that car. And if the police seen that and I said, no, but I've got a key, this is my car, they would go, no, it's not your fucking car.
Exactly.
What is the fucking difference?
There isn't, and that's the thing. Like there's a lot of stuff like that when it comes to sexual assault laws that are on the books that make kind of no sense.
Right.
So for like the idea that you get these questions, and this is something that happens a lot in domestic violence situations too, which is well, what did you do? Why didn't you leave? Where, what were you? Which is why I know why She Stayed is called what it is, because it's a talk. When we talk about financial abuse, there's the idea of the fact that a lot of times, like I think if it's either 98 or 99% of people who are in abusive relationships are also financially abused.
And they
So if
can't leave because they don't have the financial
if they
means,
don't have
right?
money, yeah, if they don't have money, if they don't have access to the funds in the house, where are they going?
Yeah.
Which is why we do focus on financial abuse, but we cover everything because it does affect all of it. And so when you're thinking about like that kind of victim blame behavior that comes up, where people are like, well, why didn't you just go? Well, where was I going? And
Yeah.
especially if I have kids, where was I going?
Yeah, but
Like, how was I getting out?
you can't run away and leave your kids. Like, no, fuck
And
that.
the kids are not going to be safe either. So
Sure.
I grew up in a pretty wild situation. And my parents were always at it with each other.
I feel you.
They were both kind of
I feel
chaotic
you.
in their own ways. But like nothing felt worse than like my dad leaving and me just being there still. So you've got chaotic 1 and chaotic 2, and then chaotic 1 leaves, and it's like, oh, okay, so I'm just here with chaotic 2. Like, what
Yeah.
do I do, right? And so like you have there are these situations where like you can't leave without your kids unless you're just willing to kind of leave your kids to that. But you also, like, what are you going to do? Like, you also,
Yeah.
are you taking your kid to a shelter? Are you like, what are you supposed to do? So a lot of what we're doing is working on a program that helps provide resources that are a little outside the box. At least that's the portion I'm working on. So we each have our own little sections that we're doing. Casey and Kat work very hard on the Writing to Heal
Yeah.
process, using writing to sort of like get out a lot of your demons,
Yeah, of
a lot of
course.
the stuff you've been dealing with, because we have like therapeutic questions and like showing people, relating the things that have happened, say in the memoir, to things that are happening in the people's life who are using the program. So that's one of the things that we're working on. Another thing is I'm compiling a list of resources from everywhere that I can find. And that's been like the big project I've been working on, which are like not the standard go to a shelter and
Yeah.
get these services, because a lot of times they don't have the money or the funding either, to help
No, yeah,
everyone.
sure.
We've had situations, we've heard stories about someone going into a shelter and getting $100 gift card. It's like, well, that's where's
No,
that taking me? Like, what am I
yeah,
getting with a
what?
$100 gift card? So like trying alternate community organizations that help with housing, trying to find them
Yeah,
like food kitchens and like soup kitchens and things like that, but also like job training.
sure. Yeah.
Particularly for people who have been stuck being traditional like stay-at-home moms.
Because some people who are abusers, they won't allow their spouse to go to work, will they? Like,
Exactly.
and that can go both ways as well. Like, we've got it. It's not always just the man stopping the woman. The woman can stop the man. It's crazy because if you live such a sheltered life, like, and it's not your fault, you're coming out of this relationship, and I suppose that's where the is it Munchausen they call it? No,
I think you're
no.
thinking, oh gosh, why am I not
Yeah, I
thinking
know
of?
what I'm saying. I don't know
I'm
where
so glad
Munchausen
you
comes from. I
come
don't
up
even know
with.
what that is. But the one where you leave your like attacker or your abusive partner, but you want to go back, right? And it's like
Yeah.
that.
Well, there's also that's trauma. There's trauma bonds, and those are you
Yes.
only feel safe in the chaos, and it's wild, but it does happen. I mean, I realized that, like, I grew up in that situation where everything was always chaotic, and then I made friends where everything was always chaotic, and I built
Yeah.
a life where everything was always chaotic, and like not in the good kind of chaos like I have now, which is all like healthy, like reaffirming things, but like
Yeah.
when I was growing up, it was like people were calling the cops, and like there were, you never knew when someone was gonna beat someone up, like you were
Yeah.
on, hanging out in the neighborhood. Like, I mean, I grew up in the Bronx, so I'm in like
Oh
I'm
shit.
in that the yeah I'm in that part of New York City. So, like you not to say that it's any, I mean, there are places far worse, but it's
Yeah. No, I can
but
imagine.
yeah, like when you're hanging out in places that just, yeah, they just explode into chaos because that's what you're used to. That's what you grew up around.
Yeah.
And if there's no chaos, then what are you even doing? Um, it
No, of
then
course.
it just changes your whole viewpoint. And when you've lived that way for a long time, your brain sort of readjusts to that, and it becomes hard to be peaceful and
Sure. Yeah.
calm because that just feels so unfamiliar. Then you're on edge all the time.
Yeah, because
And
you don't know what, like, for lack of a better term, normal life is. You're
exactly,
so
or even
used to
just
abuse.
when the other, she was gonna drop. Like there's this vibe of, oh, okay, like there's always something pending. Something's gonna come and ruin this. When you start building things that are
Yeah.
healthy, like what's gonna happen that's gonna just completely dash this, and then I'm gonna have to figure out how to fix it.
Yeah. No, of
So
course.
yeah, it can be like there are a lot of aspects to sort of like dive into and help out on, and we're trying to do what we can, our little corner. It's not easy. There are a lot of things. I always tell my one of my business partners, Casey. I'm always saying to her, I was like, "Well, this is the first step to saving the world."
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. No, it's true. Like, I think that type of work is absolutely phenomenal. Like, genuinely, like, I think it's out of this world, and every small little thing is good, and it helps. And most people who are doing this, they're not doing it to feel good, they're doing it because they want to help people, and that's where hats off to everybody who does that. We have an app in this country. I don't know if it's like, I'm assuming it can be used anywhere, but we actually have an app. The lady I was talking about the podcast earlier, she, since coming out of this abusive relationship, because it was coercive control, financial control, everything that everything that it could be. She's released an app, and I'll get the name of it and put it in the show notes. Because on this app, it's like a secret hidden app, but it allows you to record, record audio, record video, take pictures, store your receipts and everything in this, and it actually puts it into a document that you can just hand to the police and say, "Here's the proof." Because
Brilliant.
the
I love it.
hardest thing is getting the police, especially with coercive and financial abuse. The hardest thing is getting that to the police and for a court, because where's the proof?
Exactly. It's so hard to prove. And then again, like you were saying about narcissists, they have a whole other personality that they show the rest of the world.
And they
Um,
tend to be charming.
exactly. They're
Yeah.
usually people that everyone loves, and then you're there knowing the truth. And how do you get this? And how do you get people to believe you when everyone else thinks that they're like this perfect,
Prince Charming.
wonderful person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely crazy. So speaking of obviously the things you write about that and all the research you've done, what I want to do is sort of go on a lighter note.
Oh
Just
yeah.
before we finish off, to go on to a bit of a lighter note, we were talking about a bit about geek culture earlier and that sort of thing. So,
Yes.
where does that come into your life? Like, what's your favorite? Who's your favorite hero? I think you've already said that, but you know, because I firstly, I've stated this so many times on this podcast about geek culture. Is like, it feels like when I was a kid, it was like being a geek was like the lowest thing. Like, whoa, like
Uh-huh.
when I was painting my Warhammer figurines and watching Dragon Ball Z, Batman, and doing all this geeky shit,
I see
like,
your Goku back there.
yeah, you know, I've got Goku tattooed on me, I've got Darth Vader tattooed on me, I've got like, you know, but as a child, as a teenager, it was like you were like pushed to the side, like, what the
You think
fuck,
that's
man?
bad? Be a geeky girl.
Well, I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine. Like, I could like stick up for myself quite well in school, so I got away with it a little bit. You know, I was a little bit of a shit, but I think it's
Same though.
done like a U-turn,
Mm-hmm.
and like now it's like really cool. But I love that, but I also get scared there's some imposters.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. And there's people that don't like I have fun with that though. Like I remember one year me and so I don't know how into Batman you are. I am a huge Batman geek.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually my favorite is actually the Red Hood, who's the anti-hero out of the group.
Mm-hmm.
And so one year we're going Halloween shopping, and I was like, I want to, my husband wants to be the Red Hood, I'm gonna be Batgirl, and my son was gonna be Robin. And we were
Sick.
looking for stuff. Easy to find Batgirl and Robin costumes. Red Hood, not so easy. He's not as well known. More and more so now, but like at the time, it was a few years back. So we were like looking for stuff. And I started saying, I was like, oh, we're going to have to put together
Yeah.
like your because like he pretty much wears regular clothes just with the hood. So I was like, okay, well we can get like, and some like rando comes by, some guy who like he's like, well you need to get, and he starts telling me. I was like, wait, are we talking about because I couldn't help myself. I hate when people do that. Like he felt like he needed to inform me of my favorite character.
Right.
um
Yeah.
and I was just like, oh, are we talking about like New 52 continuity, or are you trying to dress for like the the rebirth continuity, or are we going like pre-crisis or post-crisis? Like, what are we doing? Because I couldn't help myself.
Right.
I have all the comics. Like I've been reading comics since I think my brother read me comics before I could read.
Oh wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
I've
So I
tried to
had
do that with my son.
yeah,
Like,
like I've been doing that with my son. I was doing that with my son too. Like the really fun stuff. Like I'd read them Action Comics and stuff like that.
I
And
got him like it's like a little box. It's very small. It's nothing special. It's just like 5-page little comic, but it's an Avengers one, so it's got a like, little comic for each like hero. And I mean, obviously he can't read. He doesn't really take the reading in, but he likes the pictures, and I'm like, that's a start.
yeah, he's too
And he's
young for
obsessed with
all that.
Grogu, so it's great.
Oh, Grogu!
Yeah. So
There's a picture somewhere buried deep in my Instagram of me watching one of the episodes of The Mandalorian, and I literally have a toy Grogu, and I'm hugging it like terrified. Somewhere deep in my Instagram from like a couple of years ago. And it's like I was serious. Like my husband took a picture of this. I had the Grogu in my arms, like, what's gonna happen to him? Um, but yeah, so like I love all of it, but I've been doing it like I've been reading comics since the 80s.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, so I know I have like baby face, but I'm like 40, 42. So yeah, I've been reading comics since the 80s, so I like have a bunch of like comic book and geek knowledge. I'm also an anime fan.
Oh,
Um
cool.
so yeah, I was watching Dragon Ball Z too.
So that's
Uh
my only anime. I'm not gonna lie. The only anime I've ever watched is Dragon Ball
oh
Z.
well, let's see. I
I
have
tried.
recommendations.
What did I try to watch? I tried to watch, and I did kind of get into it, but I just don't have time. Um,
That's the
is
hardest
it?
part.
Um, I don't even know. I'm gonna pronounce it something Kaizen.
Jujutsu Kaisen.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think
I
I
don't
tried.
really love that one that much. My
Yeah,
husband and my son are fans. I don't really. I'm like, it's okay. I like Demon Slayer.
that's I've tried that as well. I liked
A
that.
really good
I
one.
watched like the first few episodes. The artwork's fucking phenomenal. Like yeah, it's so cool. But like I say, I just don't have time. And I grew up very strange when it comes to like being, for lack of a better term, geek culture. Because because of my parents. So I was always into like we have like chavs over here. I don't know if you know what they are, but like it's like your house electronic music type, but they
Gotcha.
wear like tracksuits, gold chains, and all that, right?
Mhm.
I like that music, but I also like super heavy metal, your Slipknot, your Metallica, all this sort of stuff. So I was always in between the two there. And then I was always super into my football, soccer for you, but I was also super into like superheroes, my painting, my models, my figurines, my gaming, all this sort of stuff. And I'm also really into the gym, so I have that a good physique, and I'm covered in tattoos, and I have short hair. So as you can imagine,
All over the place.
I'm like, someone looks at me thinking, you chav. And then, but deep down, I'm like, no, hold up. If I'm trying, like, I don't, it was really hard for me to find common friends who were into the same thing as me because I was always judged first, you know?
It's hard. Yeah, you have to like put it out there, which can be dangerous when it was back when
Mm-hmm.
it was like really like looked down upon. I got really lucky because I met like one of my closest friends I met because of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which
Oh,
was a
cool.
huge geek moment of mine. Like could recite the episodes, kind of serious
Oh,
geeky moment.
really?
Oh yeah. And a show called little sci-fi show called Farscape, which not that many people know about, but it's
No.
bizarre. It is sci-fi space opera with Jim Henson puppetry. Um,
Okay.
yeah, it's wild, and the puppets start to feel like real people, like they're aliens, they're alien
Oh,
characters.
okay.
And at one point, my husband was just like, "Oh, I think he was like, oh, so they they killed off a character, and he was wondering how the actor was what the actor was going to do next, and then we both realized that the character was not a real person, he was a puppet. Like it just we're so into it that he's like, yeah, that's kind of sad, I wonder what the actor's gonna move on to do. And I'm like, and he's like, I just realized it the minute it came out of my mouth, I feel so
It's like,
dumb. um but like they feel real, they do, they feel like real people. And I was in love with that show, and I in college mentioned, like, I made some kind of reference to it offhandedly, and the girl sitting next to me was like, what?
oh,
And
shit.
I was like, yes, this is
Yeah.
and she was also a huge Buffy fan, and that was it, that was like, and
Friends
she's
for life.
to this day one of my closest friends. Allegra, if you're listening. But yeah, she like, a lot of my friends are just as geeky as me, but it took time to
Oh,
acquire.
see, I watch The Big Bang Theory all the time. Like that's my go-to watch. Like my partner, she's obsessed with Friends. She loves Friends. Like because Friends is like the go. It's an amazing TV. Like it's
It is,
funny,
it's fun.
but to me that's The Big Bang Theory. Like that is my go of all TV shows. Like, and I've dreamt about having that type of friendship group so many times, and I'm just like, ah. But yeah, no, that was a dream. So speaking of in this sort of section, let's go for it. What would be your favorite sci-fi movie franchise?
Sci-fi movie franchise, I feel like it has to be Star Wars, except that I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the later ones haven't been as good.
No, you are so right there. It's like the
Which is
same
kind of
story.
disappointing. Yeah, I feel like you get glimmers of good in them, and then like, but the full overarching story has not been as good in this trilogy,
But it's
like the
just a
later
rehash,
movies.
isn't it?
It is, and then
Yeah.
there's also like that really random, and then the Emperor came back, which
Yeah.
the running gag there is like the Emperor came back in. So my son plays Fortnite like religiously. There was
So
like
do
some
I.
throwaway. Awesome. I watch him. I love watching. I'm weird with gaming. Like I don't always game because I just don't have the time, but my son will play through things and I'll just be watching story and stuff like that. So like all the lore of Fortnite I know. Um
Okay.
and like when cool new skins come out, like I'm always like, "Oh yeah, that's nice. You should get that." And my son's like, "You're not going to play with it." Like but they have this, like especially
Yeah.
when it's like a geek thing, and I'm like, "They have an Iron Man. You have to get that."
It's Star Wars at the moment on Fortnite,
I know it
actually.
is. Yeah. I think he already got through the battle pass. He's done. But still, of course, racking up XP. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I would say Star Wars. I also really, really love although it's not a franchise, I guess it was a series. It became a movie. It was Serenity, is Firefly.
Okay.
I love that. But yeah, it was really more one movie and a television series.
Sure.
So yeah, sci-fi. If we're talking fantasy, that's hard because then does superhero play into? I guess superheroes would
See,
play
I
into
would, I would,
fantasy. I don't
because
know.
I think like Star Wars is sci-fi, but Lord of the Rings is fantasy, right?
Right. That's really how I
That's
would split it. I don't. It's funny because I really don't love epic fantasy
okay.
unless like, and it's funny because if a writer can make me like an epic fantasy, then I always give them like, but if I'm editing a epic fantasy and I go, you made me like epic fantasy, like I enjoyed this, that's like the big ringing
Right.
endorsement for me. Because I just don't generally like those types of, I mean, I see the interest in them, but like when they're like and we're gonna go on a quest and then it's gonna take like 3 hours of walking through the forest, and it loses me. So yeah, but I like I do like magic, and I like, seeing stories that involve that sort of thing. Usually
Okay.
more modern takes on magic, and I'm trying to think of a good, like, I feel like Buffy the Vampire Slayer is really a good idea of
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. Like I really do like the modern everyday with like an underworld of magical and
Sure.
unpredictableness.
Okay. Because I've see, it's crazy because I love all this sort of stuff. I love it, but I can't get on with Harry Potter. I don't know why. I just
Don't even mention Harry Potter these days. But the yeah, Harry Potter for me, I didn't get it. I didn't really get it either.
yes.
I don't. I mean, it's just I always felt like they were like, especially I tried to read the books, and I
Okay.
felt like the books weren't well written as everyone made them. And then we saw the movies. I like the movies better than the books. But still, they did like, yeah, okay, I saw them, and I was like, all right, they're okay.
I think they were just a bit too childish for me. They were just a
I
little
mean,
bit too childish.
yeah, and like there are things that don't make any sense. Like I know there's one. I always complain about this. The continuity person in me can't deal with the fact that they had something that could turn back time and
And
only
they
used
just
it in
didn't.
one movie.
Yeah. I mean,
Like
yeah.
that's all powerful.
But then you've got to think of Back to the Future. You can't change too much because it will
You
change the
can't.
future, which is
That is
also
also another
amazing.
great sci-fi
Yes.
franchise. Um, I'm laughing because right now, so my son's off from school right now. I'm laughing because right now he is literally watching something about Cloverfield,
Oh,
like,
okay.
which is
Cloverfield's
another
cool. It is awesome.
really good, like good monster movie. But yeah,
Yeah.
really good story. So yeah, but like it's the continuity part of me like just rankles at the idea that they had a lot of the things that they supposedly had in some of these movies and then never used them again.
Yeah. It's quite
Like,
common though, isn't it? Like that's quite a common thing, and you're just like, oh, bro, like, come on, man. So that's movies. What about so did you mention your favorite superhero? Did you say it was Red?
it's Red Hood.
Yeah, okay,
Or
cool.
if you're looking for someone more popular, Batman, but they clash a lot, so like I'll always pick Red Hood's side. Um,
I'm a massive Batman guy, but I've also like Blade is just
Blade is really great
like
too.
he's just cool as shit. Like
Yeah, there's the rule of cool thing there.
yeah, like Batman's he's cool, but like he doesn't like the whole killing side. And Blade will just slice somebody
That's
up.
why I
Like,
like Red Hood,
yeah, like you've got to
because
be.
he'll go there.
I also love Iron Man though. Like Iron Man's cool.
Iron Man's cool.
Marvel
I
or
like Iron
DC?
Man because he's funny.
Oh yeah, and Robert Downey Jr. Perfect.
Oh yeah, he
What
was
like
he was like made for that role. Like when
yeah,
I saw he got cast, I was like, I mean, he was not in a great part in his career at that point, and I was like, this guy's perfect. Like
he's so good,
he's
so
so
good.
good. Spider-Man though is my longtime favorite.
Okay, okay.
Um,
And are you a
I
Marvel or
just
DC woman?
more DC.
Oh, see, I'm the opposite. I'm more Marvel. I'm
Yeah,
definitely
a
more.
lot of people are more Marvel. I'm definitely more DC.
I like the grunge to DC though. It seems a bit more grimy, a little bit
Yeah,
more
there's definitely like
darker.
it's less. Yeah, like I feel like, well, it's like the opposite sort of. There's a lot of people with abilities in Marvel, and then like some like godly characters, but like in DC you've got like the Supermans and the Wonder Womans and like there's all this like really heavy hitting people, and then when you have the people that are like working on the street level like Batman, it's all like, very dark and grime, because it's like
I do like that.
Yeah,
I think The Dark Knight done it for me as well. Like, just there's name a better film, I can't. Like
that movie is brilliant.
It's amazing, right? It's so good. Okay. Did you watch The Big Bang Theory?
I've watched it on and off.
Not a fan?
Not as big, like, so I do like it, but I don't know. It never really like did the same thing for me. Like I know you love it, so I feel bad talking badly about it.
No.
It's okay.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the question anyway, because I could tell a lot about somebody by the way they answer this question.
I'm interested. Okay.
Who's your favorite character out of The Big Bang Theory?
I actually really think Sheldon is hilarious. I know he's supposed to be kind of a dick, and
dude, it's him. It's him or Howard for me. Like, Howard's just like, because it's fake and he's a little pervy and it's just funny, man. Like, you know. So, no, you answered that correctly. That's brilliant.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm so glad.
Is there anything you want to go through before we sign off, or are you happy?
I feel like, I guess the only thing I would say is, you know, if you are interested in learning more about, like, I Know Why She Stayed or Write Hive, if you're a writer who is struggling to get access to things, we have a free conference that's coming up. We do a full like 3-day writing conference completely free on Discord. And we have like a ton of panels. It's going to be awesome. So if you're interested in that, you can check out Write Hive on any social media.
I'll put it in the show notes as well, so everyone will be able to click the link.
We're all over social media, so there's that. I Know Why She Stayed is also all over social media. If you know, if you're interested in like, we also are always accepting donations. Don't feel right totally asking about that. The worst thing, I'm terrible at asking for money, but we always need that to continue running. So if that's something that you're interested in, or even if you just want to learn more about it, and also, you know, I write books too. So sometimes I do that.
Sell yourself.
Yes. So yeah. And I also freelance edit. So I'm sort of like, you know, I'm there doing the things. Any questions or anything, I really am like, I say this, I mean it 100%. I'm an open book, you know, DM me, ask me a question about writing, about anything, about, you know, all of the stuff we talked about, and I am there. I answer. I love to talk about this stuff. So
amazing, and I'll put your Instagram in the show notes too.
My favorites.
I will. I'll put your Instagram in the show notes as well. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been brilliant to talk to you.
It has been wonderful for me as well. I've had a great time.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. As always, if you are watching or listening, we're on YouTube as well if you're listening. And if you're watching, we're also on Apple Podcasts. So if you're driving and you want to listen, you can just go there. But we are on everything. So like, comment, share if you can. Like I said, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. They're the 3 mains. And follow us on Instagram. Peace out. Thanks for listening.
Awesome. Thank you.